Alright, a couple of people have asked me about the Meyer ST-90 snowplow that I modified to fit the 3-point hitch of a tractor. And instead of taking pictures and trying to type a description, I figured the best thing to do would be to just make a video. This is a Meyer ST-90 7.5 foot snowplow blade. I believe it was made sometime in the early to mid 80s. I don't have a definite answer on that, but just based on the decals and the truck that I took it off of that we bought back in the 80s and had the plow put on, that's my guess. I don't know if this was a new or a used plow when it was put on. Now the main goal of this was to make this fit the 3-point hitch of a tractor without modifying the blade so far that it will not fit a truck if it needs to go back onto one. The truck we took it off of no longer runs, but this takes the Meyer Classic design, which uses a lift chain up in the center and 2 pins, and there's no reason to modify it so that doesn't work, that if we needed it we would like to be able to use it again. So what I've done is I had this frame here that is a 3-point hitch head lifter for IH heads. We don't have an IH combine. I just happened to pull this out of a shed that we were tearing down and saved it, so that was my frame. If you'll ignore all the snow, the lift chain snapped on me last night and I'm in the process of replacing that. I'm going to cut that off and put a new piece on with a new chain, a little bit heavier. What I did was there was this fairly heavy piece of angle iron running across here. That was there. Now I added this second piece, so now there is 1/2 inch of steel going across right here, and it's a 1/4 inch thick either side. What I did was I added to that this square tube, and I notched it so that the mounts for the plow would fit in there. And there is bracing underneath here that attaches all this together for extra support. So that is how the A-frame is connected to this frame. And we've used bolts instead of pins because that's what we had handy. Now to this I put a 1/2 inch plate and a piece of T-bar that this cylinder is mounted on. Yes, I know it's County Line, that's Tractor Supply, that's, you know, a cheaper brand, but this was a low-cost project. And then we have this piece of 2-inch square tube. I believe it's either 1/4 inch or 3/16 thick. I can't remember off the top of my head. I did take one of these snowplow chain lift brackets and I cut it right here and welded to this square tube and braced it top and bottom. Then there's a piece of T-bar welded on here that the other side of the cylinder is connected to. So this is our raise and lower. And you can see we just have 2 regular pieces of 3/8 hydraulic hose with regular connectors on them. Then the old cylinders were shot. I bought 2 new cylinders for it. And that's what these 2 1/4 inch hydraulic lines are for, and those are for the power angle of the blade. Now, I don't know if this is a homemade frame or if this is a manufactured one. So if you're going to do something like this, you want a nice heavy frame. This one's made to pick up 7,000–8,000 pounds. And I've had to touch up a couple of the welds that probably weren't done the greatest, and added pieces like the bracing on these supports. There's a bolt here that this piece pivots on, so the hydraulic makes it, you know, up and down like it's supposed to, and the spacers are just to keep it from dropping real low, that if I'm going over a bump, you don't want to catch the lift arm on the blade like has been done in the past. Other than that, we didn't really have to do much else. We have gravel, so I had to set the shoes for being on gravel. The old trip springs were shot. I wish this was one of the ones that had 4 trip springs, but in my mind it's not worth the money to upgrade it. Currently it's being run on the back of a 4650 John Deere tractor, set at 60-inch center on wheel base. This plow, when it's straight, clears the wheels no problem. When you have it fully maxed out on the angle for diverting your snow to one side or the other, you will just clear the blade or the tires on the tractor on the sides with, you know, overhang by about 1 inch. So if you're going to do something like this, you might want to look for a 9-foot blade instead of a 7.5. But we have a 7.5 and it gets the job done. So I'm going to get this piece welded up. I'm letting it thaw out a little bit in my shop here. And then I'll take some video of this in action once it's all put together. And one thing to note for those of you who don't have much experience with Meyer blades, if you happen to use one, is you want 4 links of slack to where this is coupled. You do not want this chain tight where the blade will not be allowed to float. And I always run this hydraulic cylinder and float when the blade is not lifted. That way, the first time I did this, there was a chain going from there up to there, and the 3-point hitch lifted it while I was going down the road with it, and I snapped that bolt and the plow blade dropped, and I bent the hell out of that piece down there where the chain is hooked up. So that's why we changed it this year to have the hydraulic cylinder. I'm going to get this welded up and we will revisit it when it's hooked up to the tractor. Well, it's another cold day here in Illinois, and you can see the snowplow is hooked up to the tractor. We're all fixed up now. I got the D-ring and the new chain put on here. And you can see the plow blade all hooked up to the tractor now. Now what we have is a hydraulic cylinder here that's mounted in place of the third arm. And what's nice is with where these pins are positioned, if I'm going over different kinds of terrain, I can raise and lower my cutting edge separate by pitching the blade this way and this way to leave more or leave less material behind and not pick up any gravel. It fits the tractor fairly well. I think I might look into some of those extension wings you could put on these that I believe it's Central Parts Warehouse sells. I think that'll make a big difference getting past the tires. You can see there's not more than a couple inches clearance with the blade straightened out. So let's go ahead and let's show you it running through its functions. Back into the nice warm cab. Now this tractor would have 3 hydraulics for the 3 functions, and you could figure them how you like them if you're going to do something like this. I like number 1, forward and float, which is going to lower it, and back is up. Number 2 is my blade pitch, and I like it so that this handle and this side of the blade line up. You push the handle forward like this, the blade's going to go like that. You push the blade the other way and the blade's going to roll the other way. And then this third one is my third arm cylinder, and that's my tilt function that for the most part I really don't have to use when pushing snow with this tractor. So you can see it run through its functions. Let's go up and down. And as I mentioned, I normally run this in float, but just so that you can see it operating, let it float down. And we have our blade pivot. And I'll show you the tilt function. And that's pretty much it. You can see I've got some pretty good piles going. I'd say they're about 6 to 8 feet tall. We had about a foot of snow down, and this is a pretty big lot to clear on both sides of my building. I do have my front loader out so that I can clean up any big piles that this just isn't cut out to push. So all I've really got left is this little bit over here, get it up by the fuel tank so my fuel man can deliver, and we're in good shape. This blade works really nice, and just as I've mentioned, a wider blade would make it absolutely perfect. Please leave a comment if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.